Welcome to Fit in Fitness, the podcast that proves movement isn't just for the gym, it's for life. I'm Carly Fouth, also known as Fit Fun Carly. I'm a cancer survivor, fitness mentor, and founder of the Fit in Fitness method. This all started from my chemo chair, where I began sharing stories to bring hope and resilience to people going through cancer. Now I'm taking it further, expanding beyond my own breast cancer fight to highlight people from all walks of life who've used movement and mindset to overcome life's biggest curveballs. Whether you're facing illness, lost, or just feeling stuck, these are stories of grit, joy, and the small, powerful steps that can change everything. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Fit in Fitness podcast, where we explore the power of movement, mindset, and resilience. Today, I'm bringing you a conversation that I know you're going to love. My guest is Dr. Emily. She's the founder of Naboso Technology. If you haven't heard of Naboso yet, they create innovative sensory products that help us reconnect with the ground beneath our feet, literally. From balance and posture to athletic performance, and even everyday movement, Dr. Emily's work blends neuroscience, biomechanics, and the art of mindful movement in such a fascinating way. In this episode, we'll talk about why our feet are so important, how sensory stimulation impacts the way we move and feel, and practical tips you can start using right away to feel stronger, more balanced, and more connected to your body. So get ready to learn, be inspired, and maybe even look at your feet a little differently after this conversation. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fit in Fitness podcast. I am very excited today because we are going to be talking about something that I am very interested in, especially lately. Some of you know that I've been complaining about my feet. And when I'm teaching, I always talk about the importance of feet and making sure your feet are in the right position, and yoga starts at your feet and everything. So in fitness, this is a very important topic. So I am talking to Dr. Emily Splichal today, and we're going to talk all about what she is doing for feet. So welcome, Dr. Emily. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to talk about feet.
Yes. So let's get right into it. So how did you develop your unique sensory-focused approach to movement that blends barefoot science, neuroscience, and human performance? It's really interesting. So tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually started in the fitness industry. I've been in fitness for 24 years, now a little bit less in this stage of my career, but that's where I started. Was a competitive gymnast for 13 years, which is a barefoot sport. And then as I was going through podiatry school, taught very conventionally. I was trained as a surgeon, orthotics, supportive shoes, the stereotypical approach for podiatry. This is when the barefoot running boom happened. And I really pushed into that. I actually left residency, went back to school, got my master's in human movement, and focused on barefoot science, and just really opened a whole Pandora's box on the power of the feet from the sensory side and from the sensory side. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to own this niche. And that's actually what I'm doing, is just really pushing into the sensory side, which then eventually led to Naboso. And once you start to explore the nervous system, it is fascinating, powerful, complex, and just you're always a student when it comes to the nervous system.
Yeah. And everything starts at your feet. That's what I always think about. It's a great place to start in a warm-up when you're exercising, or like I said, with yoga. And you're also a ballroom dancer, right? That's what I read in your bio. So that
I'm a new ballroom dancer. I've been doing it for like a year. And for any of the listeners who are ballroom dancers or are curious about it or tried it, it is very hard. It's like an onion, and there's layers and layers and layers and layers. So it's a fascinating exploration.
when I saw that in your bio, I was like, wow, that's impressive, because it's hard. That's really hard. So that's awesome. Yeah. So many people don't think about their feet at all until there's pain. So why is being proactive about your foot health so important? And what are some simple daily habits, because we're all about keeping things simple, that people can do to help move better and feel better?
Yeah, so our feet are obviously our body's foundation. It's the only contact point between the body and the ground. So if you're thinking how we stand, it's affected by our foot posture, how we balance, how we walk, how we lift, squat, bicep curl. So any of the exercises that we may be doing starts at our base or our foundation for alignment, and therefore muscle engagement and strength. That's one of the easiest ways to essentially try to connect it. Another powerful way is that our feet are part of our stabilization response. So in order to be strong, we have to be stable. This is really important in our pelvis. So our pelvis has to be stable to have strong glutes and strong hips and core and all of that, even higher up, shoulders, etc. You need to have a strong pelvis. And that connects to our feet fascially. So some things that people can do to start to connect to their base, their foundation, their stabilization pathway. One that I always say is to release your feet. So wake up the feet, release the feet. Think of it less as a massage and more as a activation. Walk across a pebble path, roll your feet on a golf ball, lacrosse ball, Nero ball, whatever it is, and you are waking up the muscles and the nerves and the fascia, etc. Another really good one is to really connect into your toes, because the strength of the foot lies in our toes. It's not in the arch muscles and your arch position. It's really into the digits. And I teach that through what's called short foot exercise, is one of the most well-known. Doming, maybe some people have heard of that. There's what's called forward lean, but it's really an anchoring or a gripping of the ground with the toes. And then you are essentially going to integrate that stabilization. As your toes push down, you want to incorporate your breath. So you will exhale every time you push your toes down. And it's essentially a stabilization stack. That's probably the first way, or the first two ways, that I would start to get people incorporated into their feet. And then you can spider web into recovery and footwear and surfaces and go a little bit deeper when you feel ready.
That's amazing. When I was in Denmark, one of the times I was there, and I took a fitness class that was like strictly all about the feet and the toes. And
Yes.
it was
Love it.
really intense. And then I realized I have a lot of work to do. So that kind of led me to getting those. What do you think about those spacers for the toes? I got them on Amazon. What does that do? Like, as we get older, do you find that toes start to, like, from shoes, start to push together? And I can imagine that can have an effect on athletic performance, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love toe spacers. I have some right here. I actually have a whole drawer full. Let me
Yeah,
tell
that's
you,
what I have. I have
let me
those.
tell
Yeah.
yeah. So the toe spacers are spreading and opening your toes,
Yep.
all 5 toes at the same time, which is supporting natural toe alignment. So the proper position that we want our toes in for strength, balance, power, walking, longevity is long, straight, and flat. So you want your toes long, straight, and flat on the ground. That is supported through toe spacers. So you can use toe spacers when you do yoga, when you do Pilates, in your shoes as a form of recovery. So you could extend it beyond that. There is, of course, the easiest association that the listeners probably think of is I use toe spacers when I have a bunion, toe spacers when I have hammer toes. Sure, those are easy connections, but the benefit is far beyond just bunions and hammer toes. And that's why I actually talk about toe spacers all the time. And I've been recommending them to patients probably for like a decade. And then at Naboso, I was like, you know what? I got to sell toe spacers because I tell every single patient to use them. So I love them.
Yeah, I love them too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Naboso? Tell us about your brand and what you offer there, because
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting as well. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
Thank you. Thank you. So Naboso is one, I know that you said Amsterdam, no, Denmark. So you
Denmark,
were,
yes.
yes. So close to the Slavic area where
Yep.
so Naboso is a Slavic word, which means barefoot. So
I
it's a
was
Polish word.
wondering what that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love it.
So Naboso is a sensory-based product line that I developed 6 years ago now, and every product features this patented texture. And the texture, which is these tiny little pyramids, for those that are only listening to the audio, little tiny pyramids across the entire product that is stimulating the nerves in the bottom of the feet. The best analogy is going to be Braille. So when you look at an ATM the next time you're at one and look at the braille dots, those little tiny dots are stimulating a very specific nerve in your finger, which is how your brain can read it, essentially. And that's called 2-point discrimination, right? So you could just feel it's 2 points, not 1 point. That's
Yep.
essentially how you read braille. Naboso, with our little pyramids, stimulates that exact same nerve. And by doing that, you increase awareness. You increase circulation, you increase strength. So that was really my goal when I was going through different phases of my career and the barefoot running boom and the barefoot training boom, and everyone was kind of very into feet, is that I wanted to be able to push that envelope even further by saying the story doesn't stop once you take your shoes off or the type of shoe that you wear. Like, you have to go a little bit further than that. And then that's how I started to explore all the different Naboso products.
That's really interesting. I always wondered about the texture, like how exactly that. I always thought of it, it just felt good, like a massage in
Yeah.
the bottom of your feet, but it's
Yep.
actually doing something in your brain.
Totally. Yeah. It
That's
is.
really interesting.
It is talking to the brain in a very specific way that your brain recognizes it. And what's really powerful with it, and this is specifically with the Naboso products, but we work a lot in neuro rehab. So someone who has MS, Parkinson's, stroke, neuropathy, and we'll have people say, "Oh my gosh, I haven't felt my feet in like 10 years. Now I can feel my feet." And that is so profound. Like, imagine walking across the room and it always being muffled, or like you're walking in on pillows or cotton balls,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, clarity. It's like things clear and there's clarity, and you can actually feel your feet in the ground and the ground again. That's very, very powerful to that category of individuals that I just spoke to. And that is part of what we are seeing with the Naboso texture. We see that with vibration. You
Hmm.
will see that with kinesiology tape. So you'll see it with certain um, neurosensory products that are talking to the brain in a very unique way. And it's powerful.
That's really powerful. As someone who experienced, I think it was a little bit of neuropathy going through cancer treatments,
Yep.
is that kind of texture and that kind of vibration, would that be helpful to cancer patients who are going through neuropathy? Mine was less of that. Mine was more pain, like super,
Yep.
super, like my feet were burning. Somebody was
Yep.
taking a hot poker to my feet. Could that have been something that would have helped me
Absolutely.
during
And
that time?
in two ways that I'll share with you, because we do work with a lot of neuropathy patients or individuals that it could be a chemo induced one, it could be diabetic, autoimmune, MS related, idiopathic, small nerve. I mean, there's so many different types of neuropathies out there. And I'm glad that you mentioned that not everyone who has neuropathy, kind of the diagnosis of neuropathy, is going to feel numbness.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just feel an elevation of pain symptoms, which is called allodynia. And that's when stimuli,
This is such a, oh my gosh,
I
I should have
love talking
talked to
about
you
neuropathy.
during.
I could
Oh my
actually talk
gosh,
to you
where
for
were
hours
you?
about
Where were
neuropathy.
you during my thing?
So allodynia is a hypersensitivity to a stimuli that should not be noxious or painful. So that's a category of neuropathy-based symptoms. And that's typically where the medications come in. So like a gabapentin, a Lyrica, some of these other ones are based around navigating the nervous system, the brain, so that you don't feel this heightened noxious stimuli in a sense. On the other side, though, is you're going to have neuropathy symptoms that are void of sensation. So that's really your tingling and your numbness. That's the part that affects balance, movement, fear of falling, etc. on that side. So both of them. Now, where sensory stimulation can play a role in both of those is that on the allodynia side, you are desensitizing it. So if you bring in another stimuli, you're essentially masking the brain, or you're overriding the brain and saying, focus on this stimulus versus this stimulus. That's a desensitization strategy. And there's a lot of methods that are now FDA approved in that category to try to override that pain response in the brain, particularly in chronic pain that are related to these GABA receptors. So it's a very specific type of pain pathway. On the numbness or tingling side is actually bringing sensation to the foot so you can feel your feet and you can walk confidently without falling. So those are two different ways that Naboso specifically can work with neuropathies. And again, this is all types. It's also increasing microcirculation. And some of the neuropathies are microcirculation based. Diabetic, which is the most prevalent form of neuropathy, is a microcirculation disorder or
Hmm.
symptom, right?
Yep.
Where like a chemoneuropathy is a toxicity. regardless of the method, you want to support the itty bitty blood vessels that go to the nerves so that the nerve can repair itself.
It's fascinating. And I really wish I had somebody explain that to me at the time because I thought,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so is this neuropathy? And they're like, well, are your feet tingling and numb? And I'm like, no, the opposite. And they're like, then it's not neuropathy. And I'm like, what the hell is it? I'm
Wait,
dying.
who
It
said
was
that to you?
my support team from my cancer.
Oh,
Yeah, it wasn't a podiatrist. It was just me having these symptoms and trying to get to the bottom of it. But then
mm,
I did some reading and I was like, no, you can have pain
yeah.
with
Okay.
neuropathy. But
Okay. Well,
but it
I'm glad
wasn't with
then that
yeah.
we had this conversation because
I
I need all
yes.
the listeners to know that neuropathy, by mass media, we think it means a void of a sensation. Neuropathy means numbness, and it doesn't. It can be burning, it could be tingling, it could be like splashing water. So I've
Yeah.
had like a nerve that gets irritated somewhere in my lower leg and it's affecting my foot, and I'm like, is someone splashing water on me? It's
Yes.
very unique sensations
Yeah.
that unless you're in the space of neuropathy, you don't realize how vast and personalized and unique the experience is, which is why I very much am always like, I hear you. Just tell me your symptoms and I will validate them for you because it's important.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really important. And that was like one of the biggest things of my whole journey. So I thank you now because now I can give the information to other people
Please,
who come
yes,
to
please
me.
pass it forward to
I'll
others,
say,
please.
talk to Dr. Emily. She has all the answers about your feet. So that's really helpful. I'm really glad we had that got that question answered. I want to
Yeah.
talk to you about shoes and footwear
Okay.
because with that whole barefoot running thing that, I mean, it's still going on. And I've read a lot of articles that say that like shoes have been such a bad thing for humans because they destroy your feet and we should all be barefoot. What is your recommendation for footwear to best support our feet? Should we be wearing shoes? What kind of shoes should we be wearing? Should we
Mhm.
be wearing different shoes for different kinds of fitness activities? What's that all about?
Yes. So what I would say is high level. I support footwear that supports natural foot function as close as we can based off of an individual foot type, injury history, etc. So, yes, if I could push everyone as close towards as minimal shoes as possible, that would be my goal. Having said that, there are exceptions to every rule. So I will share my three aspects that help guide footwear decisions. First one is your foot type. Do you have a high arch? Do you have a flat foot? Is your foot flexible? Is it rigid? Do you have limited ankle mobility? So you're just kind of like, what's your foot type? Second one is going to be, what's your injury history? Do you have a history of chronic plantar fasciitis? Do you have neuropathy? Do you have arthritis in your big toe? Do you have a neuroma? I don't know, right? What is it that you have? So that's your injury history. And then the third is the demands that you're going to be placing your foot under, which could be your activity one. So if we're talking about footwear for a nurse that stands on her feet for 12 hours on the hospital floor, that's a very different footwear recommendation than someone who has the exact same foot type and injury history, but wants to go to the gym and lift weights. Very different recommendation, right?
Yeah.
So we do need to be specific, or we do need to be individualized and
Uh-huh.
then activity specific. And that is very, very important for that. And then understand that it's okay that you may wear hoka to work. That's okay. Because the other days, or when you get home, you're going to release your feet, you're going to strengthen your muscles, you're going to wake them up, you go outside and do a little earthing, whatever you're doing to essentially balance out the effect that you're in a shoe that is super supportive and has a stack, a lot of cushion in it. And we're just
Uh-huh.
balancing it. Sometimes I feel that people in the minimal footwear space and the natural footwear space get so into that side
Uh-huh.
that if for whatever reason they can't be in that environment, or that foot type actually isn't appropriate for that footwear isn't appropriate for
Uh-huh.
their foot type, then they feel like they almost failed something. And then I have to talk to the patient about that. And I'm like, you're not failing, but I'm educating them on their foot type, their everything that we discussed. And I'm educating them so that they understand it. Right.
Yeah.
And, so that's how I start to guide footwear. I try to not be very brand specific and say, well, I like Vivo for myself. So therefore, I'm going to try to get all my patients into Vivo. I can't do that as a medical practitioner. That's
Right.
I think that goes against like a Hippocratic oath or something, or like there's a you just can't do that. We have to try to keep an open perspective, and that's why I will recommend, and I'll say, "These are the pluses and the minuses of this. These are this. These are these. Here's your foot type." If you say, "Don't care what you say, Dr. Emily, I'm gonna wear my Vivos," I'll say, "Okay, I just want you to understand if you start to experience some Achilles tendon or plantar fascial pain, I want you to understand why." And that's why technically I thought this category was a little bit more appropriate, but this is how you can start to get out of then that heel pain because of this. So it's just about empowering. I want to say I
And
can't
it's
make any
also
decision
about a balance. I'm sure you recommend that people
on the
like take
balance.
off their
Yes.
shoes and go barefoot around their house for a
Totally.
little bit each day
Yes.
too. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yes.
that's healthy for your feet to feel the
Yeah,
earth, that
absolutely,
grounding.
absolutely, and for some patients, I do recommend house shoes, home
Yep.
shoes, right? So put
Yep.
on your slide, your OOFOS or whatever in your home, but can we try to get out of those? Could you instead wear maybe like the Naboso socks, so you're not in a shoe, but you're in a sock that's okay, so we got that. Then be totally barefoot. Throw on your toe spacers and walk around totally barefoot, right? So yes, it is about a variety of environments to keep that foot as strong and mobile and stimulated as possible.
That's
That's my goal.
you're very, I mean, I know this is your specialty, but you're so good at explaining it. Like this is the first time I've ever had a conversation about feet where I'm like, I get everything she's saying and I like totally agree. I'm like, this is resonating. So talk to us a little bit about the foot to core connection because I think that's interesting too. And maybe you could give us a few exercises or cues to strengthen that connection. So first tell us what that is and then if there's anything that the listener can do at home, that's pretty
Yeah.
easy to do. Let us know.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite examples or reasons why I think the feet are so cool is because your feet are actually connected to your pelvic floor. So the base of your pelvis, which is then connected to your diaphragm, which is connected up your neck to your tongue. So the way that we actually stabilize when we're in gravity, so when we're standing on our feet or up on our feet in gravity, is through a fascial. So fascia is connective tissue that runs from different parts of the body and makes us efficient and stable and connected, is from the tips of your toes, lower leg, inner thigh, deep hip, pelvic floor, diaphragm, neck, tongue. So this is a fascial sling that's called your deep front line. And when you activate your toes, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and you exhale at the same time, you're essentially starting to stack this foot to core stability.
Hmm.
Technically, that foot to core stability goes from your toes to your tongue. So I will teach people that as you stand, and the listeners could do this now if you want, is to like stand, push your toes into the ground and put your tongue to your pellet and just do those two things. And you
Hmm.
should feel like there's a thing that just connected through your system, your fascial
Wow.
system.
Yeah.
And that is what I teach people, foundation posture. I work with a
Hmm.
lot, just being in the fitness industry, I work with a lot of individuals, movers, goers, athletes, weekend warriors, just everything, right? Is how do we optimize how we stand and move? How do we optimize our strength if we're doing a deadlift, as an example?
Hmm.
I would want you to time where you push your toes down with your tongue to your pellet. And then, really, the part of the pelvic floor that is connected to this sequence is your posterior pelvic floor, which is your levator ani. And you activate your levator ani by imagining stopping your poo. There's no other way to explain it.
Speaking of, that's how I talk all the time. I talk a lot about poops and
Stop your
butts.
poo. I think in my book I said like you're trying to stop flatulence, but we don't have to be
Poo
proper.
better.
Depends like where we are and how
Yes,
proper we
true,
want to
true,
be.
true, true.
But you are lifting your levator ani, right? And when you lift your levator ani while pushing your toes down and bringing your tongue to your palate, you are now essentially stacking or integrating even more. That's how I want someone to do a deadlift or a bicep curl or a military pick an exercise, and you're going to incorporate it. So that's the powerful foot to core sequencing that you can use in a myriad of ways. But once you understand it, then you understand how we relate to gravity.
Oh my goodness, I'm teaching a class in a half hour and I'm going to use that cue.
Yeah,
That is
yay.
that is like such an easy thing to remember and something that
It's so easy.
everyone can access no
Yep.
matter what they do. Like, I love that you gave the example of before a deadlift, but even when you're like cooking or something in your kitchen, like
Oh,
just for posture, like it's so that I love
yep.
that. I
Yep.
love that. Oh my
Yep.
goodness, this has been such a fascinating conversation. Like, I'm gonna order your books because I feel like I had no idea I was
Yay.
so interested in feet. This is like fascinating. I love it.
Thank you.
As a fitness instructor, like for cueing, hugely important. And I bet there's so much more that I could be saying to help people to make that connection as well.
Yep, totally. I actually I have an education company as well, and that education company started in the fitness industry because that was my origin. And it was very important for me as a podiatrist to teach the fitness industry in general, from instructors to personal trainers to strength coaches on that side, on how to really understand feet and then how to cue towards them. So I have
Yeah.
probably more education than you want about feet for fitness professionals.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Where can people find more information about you if they want to get in touch with you? Do you offer, because I'm based in Massachusetts, do you do virtual appointments or is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So where can people find you?
Yeah. So my website for my practice and really the spider web of everything that I do is my name. So dremilysplickle.com. Hopefully they got
I'll
that
put
whole
it in the
last
show
name there
notes too.
too. Okay, the
Yep.
whole last
Yep.
name.
Yep.
And then the Naboso products, Naboso is Naboso, so naboso.com. And then that will start to spiderweb out. I'm, of course, on social media, really YouTube. At my heart, I'm an educator. So I have
Hmm.
a lot of videos on YouTube. I think probably like 500 videos at this point. And they're all educational based and they go back. I've been doing this for over a decade of teaching about feet. So I have workouts on there. I have education for professionals, education for consumers or the end user individual. I do content around like conditions, like here's the bunion, here's plantar fasciitis. And then I also have at home programs. So if someone is like, oh, like I want to do Dr. Emily's 6-week plantar fasciitis program. I have things like that as well for them to go through the program. Or I see patients virtually. That's actually most of my patients are virtual or in person in Arizona.
Okay. Awesome. 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 You are like, I can tell you're an educator because, like I said, you
Yes.
make things very easy to understand. So I will be on your YouTube channel pulling all the
Thank you.
information I can get. Thank you so much for joining me today. This went by so fast. It's been such a fascinating conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me on Fit in Fitness. My hope is that every episode inspires you to see movement as medicine for your body, mind, and spirit. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow the show, share it with a friend, and keep moving forward, one step, rep, or breath at a time. Until next time, keep fitting in fitness wherever life takes you.